Story 1. The Shadow That Followed Me Home. This story happened 2 years ago in a quiet town just outside Portland, Oregon. I had just moved into a new apartment after a bad breakup, alone for the first time in years. It was supposed to be my fresh start, but what I didn't know then was that something else had moved in with me, something that never wanted to leave. The apartment was small but cozy, second floor, facing a patch of woods that looked peaceful enough during the day. The landlord, Mr. Keene, was an older man who lived downstairs. He gave me the keys and said, "You'll love it here. Most tenants do at first." I remember laughing awkwardly, thinking he was joking, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. That night, after unpacking, I made myself a microwave dinner and opened my window for some air. That's when I noticed it. Across the woods, a tall, dark figure standing just beyond the tree line. At first, I thought it was a person, maybe a hiker or a neighbor, but it didn't move. It just stood there watching. I tried to ignore it, closed the blinds, turned on the TV, but every few minutes I found myself glancing back, and every time it was still there. The next night, I got home late from work. As I parked, my headlights swept across the tree line. The figure was gone. Relieved, I laughed at myself. Maybe it had just been a shadow. But when I went inside and turned on the kitchen light, I saw muddy footprints leading from the back door to the middle of my living room. My heart froze. I lived alone. The back door was locked, or at least it should have been. When I checked, the lock was snapped clean off. No sign of forced entry, just broken, like something had pressed against it from the outside. I called the landlord. He came up and replaced the lock, muttering something about old buildings settling weird. But when he left, I could tell he knew more than he wanted to say. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the floorboards made my heart race. And just as I started to drift off, I heard breathing, slow, heavy, coming from inside my closet. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the floorboards made my heart race. And just as I started to drift off, I heard breathing, slow, heavy, coming from inside my closet. When I turned on the light, nothing, just clothes swaying gently, like something had brushed past them seconds before. 2 weeks passed. Every night, the same thing, footsteps, whispers, the faint smell of dirt. Then one morning, I noticed something new. Fingerprints on my bathroom mirror, smudged, long, and black like ash. I called my friend Emma and told her everything. She didn't believe me until she came over. The moment she stepped in, her face went pale. "Your apartment feels heavy," she said. She tried to joke it off, but later that evening she texted me. "I saw someone standing behind you when we were talking. I thought it was your neighbor, but they vanished." That was the last night Emma came over. The following evening, I set up my phone camera facing my bed, just to prove to myself I was imagining things. When I checked the footage the next morning, my stomach dropped. The figure stood there for hours, motionless, then slowly leaned closer to my face before disappearing. I confronted Mr. Keene. At first, he denied everything, but when I showed him the video, his hands started to shake. "You shouldn't have filmed it," he said quietly. "That thing doesn't like to be seen." He told me that years ago, a man had lived in my unit who went missing without a trace. Police found strange burn marks on the walls and shadows that didn't match anything in the room. They called it an unexplained phenomenon, but the locals, they called it the shadow tenant. He warned me, once it notices you, it follows you. It feeds on attention. That night, I packed my things. But as I turned off the lights for the last time, I caught a glimpse of something in the window reflection. Only my reflection wasn't moving the same way I was. I drove through the night, miles away, out of Oregon, until sunrise. I rented a motel room, exhausted, relieved to be gone. But when I opened my suitcase, all my clothes smelled like soil. Damp, fresh soil. And in the mirror above the motel sink, a black smudge appeared on the glass, slowly forming into the outline of a hand. I tried to wipe it off. It didn't fade. Instead, Letters appeared beneath it. "I found you." The lights flickered, and for a split second, I saw the shadow standing behind me in the reflection, closer than ever. That was 8 months ago. I've moved 3 times since then. Different states, different cities. But every mirror, every window, I still see it. Watching, waiting, and every time I blink, it's closer. If you've ever felt someone watching you from the corner of your eye, don't look too long, because sometimes the shadow looks back. Story 2. The Man in Apartment 309. This story isn't mine. It belonged to a friend of mine named Ryan, a maintenance worker who lived in downtown Chicago. He was the kind of guy who could fix anything except what he saw inside that building. The building where apartment 309 shouldn't have existed. Ryan worked maintenance at the Westcott Towers, an old 1930s apartment complex that was half renovated and half forgotten. He told me every floor felt like a different decade. But one morning, he got a service ticket on his clipboard that made him pause. Unit 309, water leak, ceiling damage, urgent. He frowned. There was number 309 on his floor plan. The hallway went from 307 straight to 311. But when he walked the 3rd floor, there it was, a faded brass 309 nailed to a door that hadn't been there yesterday. He knocked. No answer. We tried the handle. It opened. The air smelled like mildew and copper. The wallpaper peeled off in long strips, and the floorboards sagged under his boots. But what struck Ryan most was the sound. Faint dripping, rhythmic like a leaking faucet. It was coming from his ceiling. He set his toolbox down and looked up. There was a wet stain spreading above the couch, and right in the center, a single droplet of dark red fell onto the fabric. Ryan froze. He touched the spot with a rag. It wasn't water. It was blood. He backed away, heart pounding. Then, from behind a bedroom door, came a noise. A low, dragging shuffle. He called out, "Hello?" "Maintenance." No response. Just breathing. Slow, wet, uneven. He turned to leave, but the door he came through was gone. Just wallpaper. Solid. He was trapped. Ryan's flashlight flickered as he moved toward the window, but the curtains were nailed shut. That's when he saw the shape in the corner. A man sitting in an old armchair facing the wall. Ryan whispered, "Sir, are you okay?" The figure didn't move. He stepped closer. Every instinct told him to run, but his body wouldn't listen. The flashlight beam hit the man's shoulder. Gray skin, soaked shirt, no movement. He reached out to touch him, and the man's head turned 180 degrees in one slow, grinding motion. The lights went out. Everything was silent except for that dripping sound. And then, right behind Ryan's ear, a voice whispered, "You shouldn't be here." Ryan bolted toward the hallway, and suddenly, the door was back. He threw it open and stumbled out. But the hallway was wrong. Endless. Repeating. Every turn led him back to the same door, 309. He began pounding on walls, screaming for help. He even tried calling his boss, but his phone screen showed 309 as the only number in his call log. Then the dripping started again, but this time it was coming from the ceiling above him. He looked up and saw a body, his own, suspended upside down, eyes wide open, blood dripping onto his face. Hours later, another maintenance worker named Lewis found Ryan standing in the hallway, pale and shaking. The door to 309 was gone, just smooth plaster wall. They rushed him downstairs, but Ryan didn't speak for 2 days. When he finally did, he only said one thing. He's still in there. He quit his job a week later, moved out of the city, and refused to talk about it again. Until last year, when I got a text from him at 3:09 a.m. It said, "Don't go near doors that shouldn't exist." I tried calling back, but his number was disconnected. 2 days later, his apartment caught fire. The fire marshal said it started in the center of his living room, where the walls had been painted over multiple times. But beneath the paint, they found something carved into the wood. 309. No one talks about the Westcott Towers anymore. The building's been sealed off, condemned. But sometimes when it rains, the mail slot on the boarded-up door still creaks open. And inside, if you listen closely, you can hear dripping. If you ever see a door that wasn't there before, don't open it, because some places only exist to trap you inside. Story 3. I used to work the overnight shift at a small diner off Interstate 84 in Idaho. We only got truckers, insomniacs, and the occasional lost traveler. It was the kind of place time forgot. But one night, I realized not everyone who came in was alive. It was a Tuesday night. Cold, wet, and dead quiet. My coworker called in sick, so it was just me, coffee machine, radio, and the smell of burnt toast. Around 3 a.m., a semi pulled into the parking lot. The driver didn't get out. He just sat there, engine idling, headlights on. After a few minutes, I heard the door chime. A man stepped in, tall, wearing a dark jacket, face half hidden under a hat. He didn't speak, just took the booth in the corner and sat there, staring at the menu like he was reading it for the first time. "Coffee?" I asked. He nodded, eyes never leaving the page. When I brought it over, his hand brushed mine. Cold, not winter cold, more like freezer cold. He didn't blink once while I poured. He finally spoke, voice dry and low. "You ever get lonely here?" I tried to laugh it off. "Sometimes." He smiled, but it wasn't right, like he was remembering something painful. Then he said, "I used to stop here. Years ago. Same stool, same clock, same song on the jukebox." That sent a chill through me, because the jukebox had just started playing Blue Moon, and the clock above the counter was stuck at 3:09 a.m., the same time it had been frozen at for months. He looked up at me, eyes pale gray. "But the last time I came here..." He paused, voice trembling. I didn't make it home. I froze. I glanced outside. The semi was still there. Its headlights off now. Cab door slightly open. I asked if that was his truck. He didn't answer, just stared past me toward the window. While I turned back, I saw it too. A figure sitting in the driver's seat, slumped over. Motionless. The man in the booth whispered, "That's me." He smiled again, wider this time. Been sitting there ever since the crash. I felt the blood drain from my face. I took a step back, heart pounding. The smell of burnt rubber and gasoline filled the air, though the diner was spotless. I ran to the kitchen phone to call 911, but the line was dead. When I turned around, he was gone. Just an untouched cup of coffee, still steaming. Then I heard something outside, a faint knock. I peeked through the glass door. The man was standing by the truck, looking right at me. His reflection shimmered in the rain, distorted like heat waves on asphalt. I backed away, locked the door, and grabbed my cell. No signal, only a notification. New voicemail. Received 3:09 a.m. When I played it, it was the sound of a crash, metal twisting, glass shattering, a man gasping. Then faintly his voice. "Tell them I'm still waiting for my coffee." By sunrise, I was still shaking. When my boss came in, I tried to explain, but he looked confused. "We haven't been open overnight in years," he said. "Not since the accident." He pointed toward a framed newspaper on the wall I'd never noticed before. The headline read, "Truck driver killed after falling asleep at wheel, 3:09 a.m. The photo showed the same semi, same diner, and the man I'd served coffee to. I turned to the booth, and there it was, a half-drunk cup of coffee, still warm. I quit that job the next day, but every few months, I still drive by the old diner. It's boarded up now, sign long gone. Still, some nights when I pass by, I see headlights parked out front. A tall man sitting in the booth by the window, always alone, always waiting, and sometimes my phone buzzes. A voicemail time-stamped 3:09 a.m. and a whisper that says, "You forgot the refill." We always think of ghosts as things from the past, but sometimes the past doesn't realize it's gone, and it just keeps ordering coffee, over and over again, waiting for someone to remember. If you ever stop at a diner in the middle of nowhere and the clock says 3:09 a.m., pay your bill and don't look back. They say watching scary stories invites them closer. So if you start hearing whispers tonight, maybe it's not just in your head. Hit subscribe before the lights go out and prove you're not afraid. And comment.